Welcome to While You Were Pooping, where you can learn fun facts in just the time it takes you to number 2. If you enjoy the show, rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. The more you share, the more we can bring to you. Today we're kicking off a deep dive into the origins of fantasy football. How did this pastime evolve from a niche game to a multi-billion-dollar industry? Let's huddle up and break it down.
While you were pooping, yeah. While you were pooping, while you were pooping, yeah. While you were pooping.
The roots of fantasy football date back to 1962, when a man named Wilfred Bill Winkenbach, a part owner of the Oakland Raiders, came up with the idea. Winkenbach and a group of friends created the first ever fantasy league, known as the Greater Oakland Professional Pigskin Prognosticators League, or GOPPPL for short. The rules were simple. Participants would draft real-life players from the NFL, and their fantasy teams would earn points based on those players' performance during games. At the time, scoring was done manually, and participants had to rely on newspaper box scores to track their players' stats. It was a labor-intensive process, but for those early adopters, the fun of competition made it all worthwhile. Fantasy football began to gain traction in the 1980s as more enthusiasts formed leagues and shared the concept with friends. The rise of personal computers and the internet in the 1990s was a game changer, making it easier to manage leagues and track stats. Companies like Yahoo and ESPN launched online platforms, bringing fantasy football to the masses and simplifying the experience for both seasoned players and newcomers. By the 2000s, fantasy football was no longer a niche hobby. It had become a cultural phenomenon. Today, an estimated 50 million people participate in fantasy football leagues annually in the U.S. alone. The rise of mobile apps, real-time scoring, and daily fantasy sports platforms like DraftKings and FanDuel have added new dimensions to the game, making it more accessible and dynamic than ever. Fantasy football is more than just a game. It's a community. It brings friends, coworkers, and even strangers together through shared love of football and a little friendly competition. Whether you're strategizing for your draft, agonizing over your weekly lineup, or celebrating a clutch performance, fantasy football offers a way to connect and engage with the sport on a deeper level. So, the next time you're checking your fantasy lineup or smack-talking your league mates, remember, you're part of a legacy that started in a tiny room in Oakland and grew into a global phenomenon. That's all for today's episode. Join us during your next poo when we drop another nugget or two for your enjoyment. And when your friends ask, "How do you know that?" just let them know you learned it while you were pooping.
Yeah. While you were pooping, while you were pooping.